Street, we're delighted to be hosting the 8th Infrastructure Awards. We've compared India with a bunch of countries that are known to be very good in terms of infrastructure. And whilst we instinctively know that these countries are better, what we tried to do then was to quantify how India stood relative to the key elements of infrastructure. And the countries we picked are Germany, France, UK, US, Japan and Canada. So what we've done is we've taken the pool of countries and we've seen what's the quality of the infrastructure that they've achieved. And to that we compared what India looks like. And unsurprisingly, India came out quite deficient in comparison to these countries. It is deficient not for any reason that we need to be ashamed of. These are rich countries, these are developed markets, and India is an emerging economy. India is actually doing pretty well in terms of taking a larger share of our total GDP and putting that towards infrastructure investment. If India is spending the right amount of money, where it is that we actually lose the output that should come with so much spending on infrastructure. We looked at our research and we came up with some very interesting insights. Between the amount you choose to spend and the output that we get are actually two intermediate steps. So the first is how much you choose to spend as a percentage of the GDP. Secondly, that amount of money that you choose to spend actually needs to go into infrastructure through an ecosystem. That ecosystem has its own cost. As you'd expect, the ecosystem includes the financial infrastructure to disburse the amount, the oversight to monitor the usage, the physical process of going and taking the money and buying everything that goes into infrastructure, and so on and so forth. We call it agency costs. So that's the second step. The third step is once you've paid for the agency cost, you're still left with a kitty that goes into infrastructure. What happens to that kitty? Well, some of it is going into spending on the infrastructure, but some of it goes into maintaining the infrastructure. And maintenance is another area where India ends up losing a significant amount of infrastructure investment. Within maintenance, you've got two kinds of maintenance. There's corrective maintenance and there is preventative maintenance. Frankly, preventative maintenance is actually pretty good. Think of it very simplistically as, let me take an example in the National Capital Region, which is where we're doing these awards. If I wanted to do preventative maintenance on, let's say, roads, I would pick a sequence which is logical, which is planned. For every period of preventative maintenance that I choose to do, I have time to plan. I can divert traffic, I can set up alternatives. Instead, if you're doing corrective maintenance, that basically means that there is a serious problem in one part of the infrastructure. It means that I have to rush to that location. I have to fix the problem in that location. So the third step in the process is how much of the kitty is used in corrective maintenance. And that leaves us with the remaining amount. That is the amount that is available for constructive infrastructure investment. Actually, India is looking pretty good when it comes to the total amount spent. Where we start losing is we lose almost 70% of the total investment in agency costs. We then lose a further 40% of what's left in corrective maintenance. So what we're left with is less than 20 rupees for every 100 rupees. 60% of the money goes into the cities. 90% of the city investment goes into transport, power and telecoms. Water, sanitation and others account for less than 10%. The remaining 40% goes into connecting the cities. If you can take smart cities and make them much more efficient in terms of their usage of infrastructure, their usage of power, water, telecoms, it ends up being a huge saving on energy. So take a look at this data. You could actually save up to 40% of big chunks of the investment in infrastructure by building smart cities. So that takes us to the end of where we need to be in terms of the overall story that India needs to follow when it comes to infrastructure.